stood on the bridge of the Galactic Coalition flagship Eternal Dominion, her four arms crossed in growing frustration. The holographic display showed the same devastating pattern repeated across 17 star systems. Human settlements wiped out, trade routes severed, entire colonies reduced to smoking craters. "Show me the 442 footage again," she commanded, her voice carrying the authority that had earned her command of the Coalition's most powerful fleet. The tactical officer, a nervous with trembling tentacles, manipulated the controls. The display flickered to life, showing the orbital surveillance recordings from 3 days ago. What they saw everything the galaxy knew about human capabilities. A single vessel had appeared at the edge of the 442 system. The humans called it Retribution, and it looked nothing like their previous ships. Where human vessels were typically sleek and efficient, this monstrosity stretched over 15 kilometers in length. Its hull bristled with weapons systems that seemed to bend the laws of physics themselves. "Pause there," ordered as the recording showed the human ship engaging the Coalition defense fleet stationed at 442. 27 Coalition vessels had moved to intercept the lone human ship. These weren't merchant vessels or civilian transports. They were military-grade destroyers and cruisers, each one capable of reducing a small moon to asteroids. The Coalition had expected a brief engagement followed by the capture of valuable human technology. Instead, they witnessed something that would haunt military strategists for generations. The human ship hadn't simply fought back. It had demonstrated capabilities that shouldn't exist. Energy shields that absorbed direct hits from fusion cannons without flickering. Weapons that fired projectiles through subspace, appearing inside enemy ships before detonating. Most terrifying of all, the ship seemed to adapt to each attack pattern in real time. "Computer analyzed the weapon signatures again," said, her primary eyes never leaving the display. The artificial intelligence's voice filled the bridge with its usual calm tone. "Analysis complete. The human vessel designated Retribution utilizes 17 distinct weapon systems, 14 of which are completely unknown to Coalition science. Energy output suggests a power source at least 50 times more efficient than our most advanced reactors." Lieutenant, the Coalition's youngest tactical genius, stepped forward. His species, though, were known for their strategic minds, and even he looked shaken. "Admiral, there's something else. Watch the movement patterns." The display zoomed in on the human ship as it maneuvered through the Coalition fleet. Traditional physics suggested that a ship of that size should move like a lumbering beast, requiring precious seconds to change course or orientation. The Retribution moved like a dancer, spinning and weaving through space with impossible grace. "The mass displacement readings don't match the visual size," continued. "Either they've found a way to manipulate gravitational fields around their ship, or they're using technology that makes their vessel effectively weightless in combat." Watched as the recording showed Coalition ships trying desperately to target the human vessel. Their advanced targeting computers, capable of tracking objects moving at significant fractions of light speed, couldn't maintain locks on the Retribution. Every time they thought they had a firing solution, the human ship would simply disappear from their sensors for split seconds before reappearing in a completely different location. "How many of our ships survived?" she asked, though she already knew the answer would bring no comfort. "None, Admiral. All 27 vessels were destroyed within 43 minutes. The human ship sustained no visible damage." The bridge fell silent except for the hum of life support systems. Across the galaxy, similar scenes had played out in system after system. The humans, who had been seen as a minor but growing threat, had suddenly revealed capabilities that made them the single most dangerous force in known space. Communications Officer Trill, her blue skin pale with worry, interrupted the silence. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission. It's on all Coalition frequencies simultaneously." "From the humans?" "Yes, ma'am. The signal is originating from the edge of our sensor range. It appears to be coming from multiple sources." Straightened, all four arms now at her sides in a posture of attention. "Put it through." The holographic display shifted to show a human male in what appeared to be a military uniform. His features were unremarkable by human standards: brown hair, brown eyes, medium build. But something in his expression carried a weight that made experienced warriors across the bridge instinctively step back. "I am Admiral Way of the United Earth Defense Force," the human said, his voice calm and measured. I am speaking to all coalition military commanders currently operating in human-claimed territory. The term human-claimed territory sent a chill through the bridge. 3 months ago, humans had controlled perhaps 30 star systems. The coalition had never bothered to formally recognize their territorial claims. You have 48 hours to withdraw all military vessels from the following systems. A list appeared on the display. His breath caught as she read the names. The humans were claiming sovereignty over 217 star systems, including several that contained major coalition colonies. Any coalition military vessel found in these systems after the deadline will be considered an act of war against humanity. Any civilian vessels will be escorted to the nearest coalition system and released unharmed. We have no desire for unnecessary bloodshed. The transmission continued, but was no longer listening to the words. She was studying the background behind the human admiral. Through what appeared to be a viewport, she could see stars moving in patterns that suggested the human was speaking from a ship traveling at faster-than-light speeds. But FTL communication during FTL travel was supposed to be impossible. Furthermore, Admiral continued, the Coalition Council has 72 hours to respond to our formal request for a diplomatic summit. We propose a meeting at the neutral station in the Vega system. We will bring one ship. You may bring whatever escort you deem necessary. The transmission paused and Admiral's expression grew harder. To be absolutely clear, humanity does not seek conquest. We seek recognition and security. However, if forced to choose between peaceful coexistence and the survival of our species, we will choose survival. The galaxy has seen what one of our dreadnoughts can accomplish. We have others. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Commander Vex, the fleet's intelligence chief, was the first to speak. Admiral, our deep space monitors detected at least 15 other human vessels of similar size moving through coalition space. They're not attacking, but they're making their presence known. Felt a cold certainty settling in her stomach. The humans weren't bluffing. Somehow, in the span of less than a standard year, they had developed technology that made them capable of challenging the entire coalition military. Analysis of their claims, she asked. Pulled up a star chart showing the systems the humans had claimed. It's strategically brilliant. They're not claiming the most valuable systems, but they're claiming the ones that would give them control over major trade routes. If they can hold these systems, they could effectively cut off resource flows between the Coalition's core worlds and the outer territories. And their military capabilities. Based on what we've observed, Admiral, a single human dreadnought could likely defeat any Coalition fleet currently deployed. If they truly have multiple ships of this class. Trailed off, but everyone on the bridge understood the implication. Looked around at her crew. These were some of the finest military minds in the Coalition, beings who had spent their careers studying warfare and strategy. All of them were now looking at displays and readouts with the expression of someone trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing. Communications, get me a secure channel to Coalition High Command. Priority Alpha. As Trill worked to establish the connection, found herself thinking about the archaeological reports that had been filed about Earth several years ago. The coalitions had noted signs of multiple global conflicts in humanity's recent history, along with evidence of rapid technological development. At the time, it had been filed as interesting but irrelevant data. Now, watching recordings of human ships that seemed to rewrite the rules of physics, wondered if the coalition had made a fundamental error in their assessment of humanity. They had seen a young species with a talent for innovation and warfare, but they had assumed that humanity would follow the same technological development path as every other species in the galaxy. Connection established, Admiral, Trill announced. The holographic display showed the Coalition Council chamber on Nexus Prime. 5 beings representing the major species of the Coalition sat around a circular table, their faces bearing expressions that ranged from confusion to outright fear. Council leader, an elderly whose family had helped found the Coalition 3 centuries ago, spoke first. Admiral, we've reviewed the sensor logs from the recent encounters. Please confirm, are the humans truly responsible for this new class of vessel? Confirmed, Council leader. We have clear evidence that humanity has developed Dreadnought-class ships with capabilities far exceeding our current technology. They've demonstrated the ability to eliminate entire Coalition fleets without sustaining damage. Council member in, representing the militaristic empire, leaned forward. "What are your strategic recommendations, Admiral?" Had been dreading this question because she knew her answer would be unpopular. Diplomatic engagement, immediate cessation of military operations in human-claimed space, and emergency research initiatives to understand how they achieved these technological advances. "You're suggesting we negotiate with a species that just destroyed multiple coalition fleets." In's voice carried the outrage of someone unaccustomed to backing down from any fight. "I'm suggesting we negotiate with a species that demonstrated they could destroy multiple coalition fleets while exercising remarkable restraint. They've had the capability to attack coalition core worlds for weeks, possibly months. Instead, they've limited their actions to removing our military presence from systems they claim as their territory." Council leader nodded slowly. "The diplomatic overture. I recommend accepting it. Send a small diplomatic fleet to station. But prepare for the possibility that everything we thought we knew about human intentions and capabilities was wrong." The connection ended, leaving alone with her thoughts and her crew. Through the bridge's viewport, she could see the stars of the frontier region where humanity had first been discovered. Somewhere out there, human ships were moving through space with technologies that bordered on the miraculous. "Admiral," Commander Vex said quietly, "there's something else. Our intelligence networks are reporting unusual activity in human space. Massive construction projects, energy signatures consistent with industrial operations on a scale we've never seen from them before. Shipbuilding. That's our assessment. If they're producing these dreadnoughts in quantity." Vex left the sentence unfinished. Nodded, the implications were clear. Humanity hadn't just developed a few advanced ships. They had apparently revolutionized their entire industrial capacity along with their military technology. The galaxy was about to witness the emergence of a new superpower, one whose capabilities were still largely unknown. As she watched the stars, found herself hoping that the upcoming diplomatic summit would lead to peace. Because if it led to war, she was no longer certain that the coalition could win. Captain Sarah stood in the observation deck of the UED Dreadnought Sovereign, watching as station grew larger in the viewport. The massive space station hung in the void like a metallic flower, its multiple arms extending in perfect symmetry around a central hub. Built by the long-extinct race, it had served as a neutral meeting point for galactic diplomacy for over 2 centuries. "Captain, we're receiving approach vectors from station control," reported Lieutenant from the communications station. "They're requesting we maintain a distance of 50 kilometers and allow coalition security teams to scan our vessel." Sarah smiled, though there was no humor in it. "Inform station control that we'll maintain the requested distance. As for the scans, they're welcome to try." The bridge of the Sovereign bustled with quiet efficiency. Unlike the frantic energy that seemed to characterize coalition ships, human vessels operated with a calm precision that came from extensive training and absolute confidence in their technology. Sarah watched her crew work, each person knowing exactly what their role would be in the coming negotiations. "Ma'am," called Chief Science Officer Martinez from his station, "Coalition fleet is holding position approximately 100 kilometers off our starboard side. 15 vessels, including 3 heavy cruisers and what appears to be a command carrier." Sarah nodded. Intelligence reports had suggested the coalition would bring a substantial escort to demonstrate their continued military strength. What they didn't realize was that their presence was providing valuable data about their current technological capabilities. "Any sign of Admiral's flagship?" "Yes, ma'am. The Eternal Dominion is positioned at the center of their formation. Long-range sensors are detecting multiple active scanning attempts, but they're not penetrating our hull shielding." Dr. Elizabeth Reeves, the expedition's chief diplomat, and joined Sarah at the observation windows. Despite her civilian role, Reeves carried herself with the confidence of someone who had spent years negotiating with species that could literally eat humans for breakfast. "Initial thoughts on their formation?" Reeves asked. "Defensive but ready for offensive action. They're trying to project strength while maintaining the ability to respond to threats. It's exactly what I would do if I were facing an unknown opponent with superior demonstrated capabilities." Through the viewport, they could see coalition shuttles moving between the various ships in their fleet. Even at this distance, The human sensors could detect the electromagnetic signatures associated with hasty equipment modifications and system upgrades. They're still trying to adapt to what they saw at 442, Martinez observed. Energy readings suggest they've upgraded their defensive systems and modified their weapons targeting arrays. Any chance their modifications will be effective? Against current human technology, minimal, but it shows they're taking us seriously and trying to find solutions. That's actually encouraging from a diplomatic perspective. Sarah appreciated Martinez's perspective. As a former coalition prisoner of war who had been rescued during humanity's first contact with galactic civilization, he understood both human capabilities and coalition psychology better than anyone else on the ship. "Captain," Lieutenant called out, "we're receiving a diplomatic frequency transmission from station. Ambassador is requesting permission to begin preliminary negotiations." "Put him through." The main shifted to show a tall, elegant being with the distinctive features of a diplomat. Ambassador had served as a neutral mediator for conflicts for nearly 40 years, and his reputation for fairness was respected throughout the galaxy. "Captain Dr. Reeves, welcome to station. I trust your journey was pleasant." "Indeed, Ambassador. We appreciate your willingness to facilitate these negotiations on short notice." Given the recent events throughout coalition space, both sides agreed that diplomatic contact was urgently needed. "May I suggest we begin with preliminary discussions between your diplomatic team and representative coalition negotiators. This will allow both sides to establish basic parameters before the formal summit begins." Dr. Reeves stepped forward. "That seems reasonable, Ambassador. We're prepared to send a small team to the station immediately." "Excellent. I should mention that Admiral has expressed particular interest in speaking with your military representatives. She seems quite interested in understanding how recent developments will affect regional security." Sarah and Dr. Reeves exchanged glances. They had expected the coalition to focus heavily on military implications, but Admiral's reputation suggested she was more interested in strategic understanding than posturing. "We'd be happy to include military perspectives in our discussions," Sarah replied. "I'll accompany Dr. Reeves to the initial meetings." After the transmission ended, Sarah found herself looking out at the coalition fleet once more. Intelligence suggested that Admiral was considered one of the coalition's most competent military commanders, someone who had built her reputation through careful analysis and strategic thinking rather than aggressive posturing. "Doctor, what's your assessment of coalition psychology going into these negotiations?" Dr. Reeves consulted her tablet, which displayed profiles of the various coalition representatives they would be meeting. Fear, confusion, and a desperate need to understand what they're dealing with. The coalition has been the dominant military force in this region of the galaxy for over 3 centuries. Suddenly discovering that a relatively young species can field technology superior to their own has fundamentally shaken their worldview. Any chance they'll resort to military action if the negotiations don't go their way? Possible, but unlikely. Their intelligence services aren't completely incompetent. They know they've only seen a tiny fraction of human capabilities, and what they have seen suggests that direct confrontation would be extremely costly. 3 hours later, Sarah found herself walking through the corridors of station alongside Dr. Reeves and a small security detail. The station's internal architecture reflected its builders' aesthetic preferences, flowing curves and organic shapes that seemed to grow naturally from the deck plating. After generations of human occupation and modification, it felt both alien and familiar. The conference room where they would meet was located in the station's diplomatic quarter, a section specifically designed to accommodate representatives from multiple species with vastly different environmental needs. As they entered, Sarah noted the subtle technological accommodations that allowed beings with different atmospheric requirements to share the same space comfortably. Admiral was already present, along with 3 other coalition officers and a civilian who appeared to be a senior diplomat. The Admiral's 4 arms and features marked her as, but her bearing and expressions were remarkably easy for a human to read. "Captain Dr. Reeves," Admiral said, rising from her seat in what Sarah recognized as a gesture of respect. "Thank you for agreeing to these preliminary discussions." "Admiral," Sarah replied, offering the slight bow that human cultural briefings had indicated would be appropriate. We're hoping these talks can lead to a better understanding between our peoples. Ambassador gestured for everyone to take their seats around the conference table. The furniture had been specifically designed to accommodate the physical needs of multiple species, with adjustable sections that could adapt to different body types and sizes. Before we begin formal discussions, Admiral said, I hope you'll forgive my directness. The Coalition military needs to understand the implications of your recent technological demonstrations. Are we looking at the emergence of a new superpower, or are we dealing with a few advanced ships that represent the limits of current human capabilities? Dr. Reeves looked at Sarah, who nodded slightly. They had discussed this question extensively during their journey to station. Admiral, humanity's recent military actions represent our response to what we perceived as increasing coalition aggression toward human settlements. The ships you've encountered are not prototypes or experimental vessels. They represent current human military technology, and we have the industrial capacity to produce them in quantity. The coalition delegation exchanged glances. Sarah could see the implications of her statement registering on their faces. May I ask, Admiral continued, how humanity achieved such rapid technological advancement? Our intelligence services suggest that human technology was significantly behind coalition standards less than 2 years ago. This was the question Sarah had been dreading, because the honest answer would reveal information about human capabilities that might actually escalate tensions rather than reduce them. Admiral, human technological development has always proceeded along different paths than those taken by other galactic civilizations. We focused heavily on adaptive systems, rapid prototyping, and integration of multiple technological approaches. When we gained access to galactic scientific databases through our early contact with coalition traders, we were able to accelerate development programs that had been for decades. It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the complete truth either. The reality was that humanity's approach to technology was fundamentally different from anything the Coalition had encountered. Where other species developed incrementally, building on established foundations, humans had a tendency to completely reimagine basic technological assumptions. The human ships that had shocked the Coalition weren't just improved versions of existing technology. They represented entirely new approaches to problems like faster-than-light travel, energy generation, and weapon systems. Human scientists had looked at coalition technology and asked not, how can we build something similar? But what are these technologies trying to accomplish, and are there completely different ways to achieve the same results? Dr. Reeves, spoke Council Representative Han, what are humanity's territorial ambitions? The systems you've claimed represent a significant expansion of human-controlled space. Our territorial claims are based on strategic security needs rather than expansionist ambitions. Humanity requires secure resource access and defensible borders. The systems we've claimed provide both while minimizing disruption to existing coalition settlements and trade routes. And if the coalition cannot agree to recognize these territorial claims, Dr. Reeves looked directly at Admiral before answering. Admiral, humanity survived multiple global conflicts, resource shortages, and environmental catastrophes before achieving. We are not a species that backs down when our survival is at stake. However, we also have no interest in unnecessary warfare. We hope the coalition will recognize that accommodation is in everyone's best interest. Admiral leaned back in her chair, all 4 arms folded in a gesture that Sarah's cultural training identified as deep thought. Captain, a hypothetical question. If the coalition were to agree to your territorial claims and establish formal diplomatic relations, what guarantees could humanity offer regarding future expansion or military actions? We would be willing to establish mutual non-aggression pacts, formal trade agreements, and joint security protocols for addressing external threats to regional stability. Humanity's goal is peaceful coexistence, not galactic dominance. And your military capabilities? Will humanity continue developing increasingly advanced weapon systems? Sarah chose her words carefully. Admiral, any space-faring civilization must maintain the ability to defend itself. Humanity will continue advancing our defensive capabilities as long as we perceive potential threats to our security. However, we would also be willing to participate in arms control discussions if the coalition is interested in establishing regional stability through mutual agreement rather than military superiority. The meeting continued for several hours, with both sides gradually building a picture of the other's positions, capabilities, and intentions. By the end, Sarah felt cautiously optimistic that genuine negotiation was possible. As they prepared to leave, Admiral approached Sarah privately. "Captain, may I speak frankly?" "Of course, Admiral." The coalition has spent centuries believing that military superiority provided security and stability. Your ships have demonstrated that our assumptions were wrong. Many coalition leaders are struggling to adapt to this new reality. Are you confident that humanity can exercise restraint if granted the territorial concessions you're requesting? Sarah considered the question carefully. "Admiral, humanity learned long ago that true security comes from strength, but also from the wisdom to use that strength appropriately. We've seen what happens when powerful civilizations believe that might alone makes right. We have no desire to repeat those mistakes on a galactic scale." Admiral's expression was thoughtful as she extended one of her hands in what Sarah recognized as a gesture of respect. "I hope you're right, Captain, for all our sakes." Admiral Wei stood in the Strategic Command Center of Luna Station, Earth's primary orbital defense facility, watching as reports flowed in from across human space. 6 months had passed since the station negotiations, and the galaxy was still adjusting to the new reality of human power. "Admiral," called Commander Torres from the intelligence section, "we're receiving updates from our embassy on Nexus Prime. The Coalition Council has the final territorial agreements by a vote of 4-1. Nodded, though his expression remained thoughtful. The negotiations had been successful, perhaps too successful. Humanity had secured recognition of their territorial claims, established formal diplomatic relations with the coalition, and signed mutual defense agreements that effectively made them partners rather than adversaries. But success in diplomacy had revealed new challenges that purely military solutions couldn't address. "What about the Outer Rim reports?" asked. Lieutenant Commander looked up from her displays, her expression grim. 3 more systems have reported unidentified ships attacking commercial vessels. The attackers are using Coalition technology, but they're not responding to Coalition military commands or identification requests. "Rogue Coalition forces." That's our working theory. Intelligence suggests that some Coalition military commanders weren't happy with the peaceful resolution of our territorial dispute. They may have taken their ships and gone freelance. Walked over to the main holographic display, which showed a 3-dimensional map of the local galactic region. Human territory was marked in blue, Coalition space in green, and neutral systems in yellow. But scattered throughout the display were red markers indicating piracy, raids, and unexplained attacks on civilian shipping. Dr. Luna Station's chief and diplomatic advisor joined at the display. "Admiral, we may be dealing with something more complex than simple military dissatisfaction. Our contacts within Coalition space are reporting significant social and economic disruption." "Explain." The Coalition's economy was built around military superiority and the threat of force. For 3 centuries, they've maintained trade advantages and resource access through implied military dominance. Our technological demonstration undermined that entire system. Could see the implications immediately. Economic collapse leads to social unrest, which leads to military fragmentation. Exactly. Some Coalition worlds are questioning why they should continue supporting central authority when that authority can't guarantee protection. Others are wondering if they should try to ally with us instead of with their traditional Coalition partners. Commander Torres approached with a data tablet in his hands. "Admiral, there's something else. We're detecting unusual energy signatures in the Perseus arm. Long-range sensors suggest massive construction projects, but they're not in any system we have detailed information about." "Coalition response to our technological demonstration." "Possibly, but the energy signatures don't match known Coalition industrial patterns. Someone else is building something big." Felt the familiar weight of command decisions settling on his shoulders. Humanity had solved the immediate problem of Coalition military pressure, but in doing so, they had destabilized the existing galactic order. Now they were discovering that their actions had consequences far beyond what anyone had anticipated. "Admiral," called communications officer from across the command center, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Captain aboard the Sovereign. She's requesting immediate secure conference with Luna Command. Put her through. The holographic display shifted to show Sarah standing on the bridge of the Sovereign. Behind her, the bridge displays showed star charts and tactical readouts that didn't immediately recognize. Admiral, we've encountered something you need to know about immediately. We're currently in the 438 system, investigating reports of attacks on Coalition shipping. What did you find? The attackers aren't rogue Coalition forces. They're not even from this galaxy. The command center fell silent, felt a cold certainty settling in his stomach as he realized that humanity's emergence as a galactic power had attracted attention from sources they hadn't even known existed. Explain, Captain. We found the remains of a Coalition merchant fleet that was attacked 6 days ago. The weapons signatures and ship debris don't match any known galactic technology. We also found this. The display shifted to show what appeared to be a recording device of some kind. The technology was clearly advanced, but its design principles were completely unfamiliar. Our science teams analyzed the device. It contains star charts showing jump routes from outside the galactic disk, along with tactical assessments of various galactic civilizations. The Coalition is listed as a minor regional power with declining military capacity. Humanity isn't mentioned at all. Absorbed this information while his mind raced through the implications. Assessment of the external threat. Unknown capabilities, but they've been conducting reconnaissance in our region of the galaxy for at least several months. The star charts suggest they're particularly interested in systems with high industrial capacity and strategic resource deposits. Doctor stepped closer to the display. Captain, any indication of their intentions? The tactical assessments suggest they're evaluating potential targets for conquest or resource extraction. They appear to view the current political instability in Coalition space as an opportunity. Made a decision that would reshape humanity's role in galactic politics. Captain, return to Earth immediately. Doctor, prepare briefing materials on the current galactic political situation. Commander Torres, initiate contact with Admiral and request an emergency meeting. Sir, Torres replied, are you considering a military alliance with the Coalition? I'm considering whatever steps are necessary to protect human interests and maintain regional stability. If we're facing an external threat, our previous conflicts with the Coalition become secondary concerns. 3 days later, found himself back aboard a human Dreadnought, this time the newly commissioned Defiant, traveling toward a meeting point in neutral space. The irony wasn't lost on him that humanity's first major diplomatic initiative as a galactic power would involve allying with their former adversaries against a completely unknown threat. Admiral's fleet arrived at the meeting point precisely on schedule, but noted immediately that Coalition vessels now traveled in different formations and displayed upgraded defensive systems. They had clearly been studying human tactics and adapting their own strategies accordingly. Admiral's voice came through the communication system. Thank you for agreeing to this emergency meeting. Recent events have convinced the Coalition Council that our previous conflicts may have been counterproductive. Admiral, humanity shares that assessment. We're transmitting all data we've gathered about the external threat. We believe immediate cooperation is in both our civilization's best interests. The next several hours were spent sharing intelligence, tactical assessments, and strategic analyses. What emerged was a picture of a highly advanced civilization that had been quietly scouting the local galactic region, while human Coalition conflicts provided convenient distractions. Based on the intelligence you've provided, Admiral said during the main conference, these external forces have been operating in our region for at least 8 months. They've avoided direct contact while gathering detailed information about our military capabilities, industrial capacity, and political structures. Nodded, our analysis suggests they were waiting for the outcome of human Coalition tensions before making their next move. Our rapid diplomatic resolution may have forced them to accelerate their timeline. What do you propose, Admiral? Joint task forces combining human technological advantages with Coalition strategic experience and industrial capacity. Shared intelligence networks, coordinated defensive positions, and combined research initiatives to develop countermeasures against their technology. Admiral's expression was thoughtful. The Coalition Council has authorized me to agree to full military cooperation under joint command structure. We're prepared to share all our tactical databases and provide access to Coalition shipyards and manufacturing facilities. And in exchange, we would appreciate access to human technological innovations, particularly in defensive systems and faster-than-light travel. We're also hoping for guarantees that humanity will help maintain regional stability rather than pursuing further territorial expansion while we're dealing with external threats. Had expected these requests. Agreed. Humanity's primary concern is security for all galactic civilizations in this region. We have no interest in conquering territory while facing potential invasion from outside the galaxy. The agreement was formalized quickly, with both sides recognizing the urgency of their situation. Within hours, human and coalition ships were conducting joint patrols and sharing reconnaissance data. But as watched the first joint human coalition fleet deploy toward the galactic rim, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were still missing crucial pieces of the puzzle. The external threat was real and immediate, but their intelligence was still incomplete. "Admiral," called Captain Martinez from the tactical station, "we're receiving long-range sensor data from the Perseus Arm monitoring stations. Multiple massive energy signatures, consistent with fleet movements on an unprecedented scale." Looked at the incoming data and felt his understanding of the situation shift once again. The external threat wasn't just a reconnaissance mission or a small raiding force. They were looking at what appeared to be a full-scale invasion fleet. Size estimates. Conservative estimates suggests at least 300 vessels, many of them significantly larger than anything in human or coalition fleets. "Admiral, this isn't an exploration mission. This is preparation for conquest." Admiral's voice came through the communication system. "Admiral, Coalition deep space monitors are confirming similar readings. Whatever we're facing, it's larger than anything our combined civilizations have ever dealt with." Looked out at the stars beyond the viewport, knowing that somewhere out there, forces were moving that would test everything humanity, and the Coalition had learned about cooperation, technology, and survival. "Admiral, it appears we're going to find out just how effective this new alliance of ours really is." "Indeed, Admiral. For all our sakes, I hope our civilizations are ready for what's coming." As the combined human coalition fleet moved toward the edge of known space, both admirals understood that their previous conflicts had been merely preparation for the real test of their civilization's strength, adaptability, and will to survive. The galaxy was about to change forever, and humanity's emergence as a galactic power was only the beginning of a much larger story that would determine the fate of every civilization in their region of the galaxy.